Hey guys, and welcome. And as you can see, it's the second edition of the Future Stars of Cricket. Very much looking forward to discussing this. And you can probably tell by the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about Naseem Shah. Yes, Naseem Shah, who is the young Pakistani fast bowler, broke onto the scene out of nowhere, really, playing for Pakistan. He's actually played 9 Test matches so far. And we're going to go into a little bit about what he brings, what his future might look like. Ashton, before we get into that though, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. You know my thoughts about Naseem Shah, so I'm glad we can talk about it. And yeah, excited to discuss Naseemness of the way he's been doing great things. Like since his debut, he has done quite a few really fun things. So yeah, ready to get down to it.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's still very young, so still a lot of time for him to develop and also change your opinion on him. So that's good. I'm also wearing purple to, of course, complement the purple theme we have. Of course, the
Appreciate
blend
it.
of the two channels. Yeah, appreciate it. Actually, not a fan of purple, clearly. Um, okay, let's get straight into it then. So, for those who don't know, he's a right arm fast bowler. He can push beyond the 90-mile per hour mark. He, as I said, first came on because of his Red Bull prowess, or prowess, or even. I think actually we were just talking about it that his first class record is really impressive. 22 matches, 70 wickets, average of 26, strike rate of 44. A bit on the expensive side, economy of 3.6, but that kind of happens when you're a strike bowler, I guess. But everything else looks really polished. Of course, his Test match record isn't as good. He's only played 9 Test matches, though 20 wickets, average of 42, strike rate of 67. He struggled in that series in New Zealand away, then got dropped. That was a couple of years ago, and rightly so. I mean, I think he went for 100 in one of those matches, and it was himself and Zafar Gohar, if I'm not mistaken. And then they got thrown under the bus, which is typical Pakistani mentality. So very good on their part. And after, just we haven't seen him again for Pakistan since he's been in a few squads. He's in a squad as a reserve for the Australia tour coming up. But I don't want to talk about too specifically because obviously we're more talking about his attributes. Ashid, as a bowler yourself, or someone who I know you've been working on your bowling as well on the nets. What do you think in terms of what attributes does he bring, I guess, to the table?
So the biggest thing is, I think you kind of touched on that, his pace, right? On the fact that he can generate that much pace being so young and all that stuff. You know my thoughts about him not being the age that he is, but I thought I'd bring it in just for the sake of argument. Whatever age he is, he's still bowling really quick. Right now, he is, I think you mentioned, Fazan, in the PSL that's happening at the moment. He, apart from Harris Rove, he's the other guy who's bowling 100 plus 147, 148 kilometers per hour on a consistent basis. Yes, he's a bit wavered, and all he needs to do is try and concentrate on one of these facets, his line or his length. But because we've seen him go for many runs, there's an perfect example there. Even in Australia, he had a really good session. If you remember when he debuted, he had one really good session, and then his performance started to dwindle out a little bit. So it's, I know we're supposed to talk about his attributes and the positives, but basically, there's a lot of things he's worked on over the course of the last year, year and a half, where he's developed in first class cricket, and the way he's being utilized, I think by Central Punjab, I think he plays for Central Punjab, is he's only being used in 4, maximum 5 over bursts, which is really, really helpful for someone who's young, who's kind of prone to injury, I must say. And because of the amount of pressure he's putting on his body, the muscle mass that he has, the way he runs, everything, all that combined, it's actually been detrimental to his health because he's gotten injured. He's got back injuries. He's got so many surgeries since the age of 14. He's had very many
He does look
surgeries.
his age, to be fair. He does.
We can discuss this night and day, but yeah, he's got a lot of surgeries over the past 5 years. Let's put it that way. And he debuted about 2.5 years ago. He's very talented. We've seen in the PSL, he took a fifer and he took a four-fer, but what's in between? It is getting hit for over 10 and over on like 3 different occasions, right? He has a lot of promise, but the issue is, I think he's a bit too overzealous. He's a bit too emotional in the way that he bowls or in the way that he plays the game. We've seen him, hit a couple of boundaries as well here and there when he comes in. But he is predominantly a young fast bowler who needs the right type of guidance. And Central Punjab, might be the best place for him over the course of the next few years. Sorry, you mentioned he's been selected in the reserves. He probably won't play, but there is a slight glimmer of a chance if there is some sort of injury to one of the bowlers. I think Naseem Shah and Mohammad Abbas are the correct ones, the ones they'll probably pick. There's a lot of talk about Haris Rauf, debuting for Pakistan in Test cricket, but Naseem Shah, he has proven himself over and over again in domestic cricket, right? Over the past year and a half. So on that basis, he's got that experience now for someone who's very young. I'm not saying he's like 10 years old, right? But the fact is, for someone who's been playing cricket for about 7 years, having had at least 3, 4 surgeries on major muscles of his body, he's coming back from that and still bowling 145, 150 kilometers per hour, consistently bowling above 90 miles an hour, as you currently pointed out. Naseem Shah is a talent to watch out for, and some of his spells, you think of Wahab Riaz, what's the first thing you think of? I think of Shane Watson 2015, right? With Naseem Shah, I've had many occasions where I'm like, dude, he bowled really well for like those 3 overs in a game. It's just developing that game even further. And because he's young, he's got a lot of time. He's got a lot of time, so he can definitely be a future star of Pakistan. And you've seen him develop over the past 2 years. So just imagine what can happen when he's got the right tutelage and the right type of guidance in front of him. And based on the fact that, Pakistan now is trying to look outward in terms of getting bowling coaches or bowling consultants and things like that, it's going to be very, very useful to someone like that. Sean Tate is part of the Pakistan bowling unit now in terms of the management side. So a guy like that training or helping out a guy like Naseem Shah, who's basically trying to be this guy, it's going to be very, very useful. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. He can develop into someone akin to Waqar Yunus, the way he can potentially bowl. We've got Shaheen as Wazim, right? We can potentially have Naseem Shah as the next Waqar Yunus, but he needs a bit more time. We talked about Cameron Green in the previous video. Cameron Green, we've seen him because he's an all-rounder. You can judge 3 of his facets. The thing is with Naseem Shah, he's got a pretty side-on action as well, and he's more of a shoulder and back bowler, which tells me that he's a bit misaligned when you look at him. When you look at his position when he's coming in, but eventually when he gets into developing those sides of his game, he'll become a much quicker bowler. He'll become a much stronger bowler, not just upper body strength, but the legs and the glutes, which are really, really useful for a fast bowler to bowl pace and to bowl it consistently and not always tip over or get injured, have those lower back issues as we've seen over the past couple of years for someone like Naseem Shah.
Yeah, I mean, glutes, it's
You
a weird
definitely
thing
need.
to point out, but glutes you need, right? Because if you look at all the fastest bowlers ever, from recent history, let's say,
Yeah.
Shah Akhtar, Brett Lee, Sean Tate, you mentioned as well, they all had huge hamstring glutes.
Yeah.
Like you could see them
Yeah.
running in, and that's just how it was because the power comes from your legs, right? So
Yeah.
that's something that he can definitely work on, and I'm sure he will be doing some squats and deadlifts in the gym or some type of
He does.
yeah.
I don't
But
know if you've
I,
seen
I
his
think
videos, but he needs to develop that. It's
yeah.
it's training for bowling, not just training for strength, if you know what I
So
mean.
so there's what's it called? What's the fast bowling training that they do? I've completely forgotten the term for it. But there's basically a specific type of training that they do, which is just it's really annoying me. But it's what they do in the gym. But it's basically to hone your fast twitch muscles.
Yeah.
So you see all the fast bowlers doing it. So you mentioned, I think quite rightly, that he could be similar to Waqar Yunus. He's got similar-ish action to him. I mean, you see Saki Mahmood's also got a similar type of action, who plays for England. But yeah, Naseem Shah is someone who is lacking consistency. Like you said, that obviously he bowls well in spells, and he does. And that's why when I think of Naseem Shah, I actually think of that hat-trick, which I know we mentioned before. I think it was against Bangladesh, as you said, and
Yeah.
really impressive at the age of, I think it was 16, if not 17 at the oldest. So really impressive. I think he's the youngest to do it. I mean, he's got loads of records. I mean, making his Test debut at 16 is one in itself, which was really impressive. And he just came and took the game by storm initially. So he was the 9th youngest player to make his Test debut at 16 years and 279 days. Youngest player to take second youngest player to take a 5-wicket haul in innings at 16 years and 307 days. So pretty impressive to say the least. But yeah, I mean, he clearly has these types of attributes, the pace you mentioned, and he tends to hit the deck pretty hard. He's not particularly skiddy. So he's got a pretty good, I think his bounce is okay. It's not terrible. It's pretty effective. The biggest issue that he had in the past was that he wasn't able to hit his Yorkers. And that's got slightly better. And what we've seen in the PSL, which I've been quite impressed by, has been his slow ball, which he was completely, he didn't have one, really, I'd say the least. So now he's actually got a slow ball, and he actually executes it pretty well. And you mentioned correctly that he has games where, for example, he gets a 4 or 5 wicket haul and he looks really good. There's other games where, he's gone for over 10 and over. I think to caveat that, a couple of those games when he did go for more than 10 and over in the PSL, everyone went for more than 10 and over pretty much, apart from if it was maybe Mohammad Nawaz was the only one that didn't, because those were 200 plus games. But obviously, it's something that he can work on, his consistency. You can see he's so disappointed as well. If he gets a wicket at the end, and that's kind of good to see in the sense that he clearly wants to do well. He wants to do well for his team. He's very passionate about performing at the highest level. But as you said, I think emotionally he's quite invested, and there's a balancing act there for sure about showing emotion too much on the cricket field. And then also as a batsman, you think, okay, I've got him right in my pocket because he's getting frustrated. So definitely improvements there, and he's still got a long way to go, as you said, to get to someone on the status of, for example, Waqar Younis. But he's definitely got that talent. And the biggest, I think, issue he's going to have, which we touched on, was the injury concerns. And I think having those injuries is a bit of a warning sign because, look, his best cricket, I think, is played in the red ball format. But if he's getting injured all the time, it's going to be quite hard because even if he's bowling, as you said, 5-6 over spells, he's still in the field, etc. as well. Still long days. So how's his body going to hold up? Hopefully he does the correct type of conditioning. His body, as he kind of grows a little bit, he might grow a little bit. I know you probably think he won't because he's a lot older, but I actually think he's one of the players that actually does look his age, to be fair, in terms of facially, if you look at him. He does look young. He looks like one of those young, innocent, kind of very. I think it probably shows in the way that he bowls as well. He bowls like a 19-year-old. He bowls like someone who, if I went into the nets at my local club and I saw a 19-year-old, he'd get frustrated, right? And he wouldn't have that kind of calm, mature kind of, aura about him. Yeah. And he doesn't right now. So hopefully he'll get taken on the wing of Sean Tate. And yeah, he does play for Central Punjab. So you said that they're utilising him in a better manner, which is good.
Yeah. So giving him shorter spells rather than, he's not James Anderson who bowls 8 overs on the trot. He needs to bowl no more than maybe 4 or 5 overs, try and keep his body fit enough so he can be utilized in the best way. He can put all his concentration in those 4 to 5 overs and put all his strength into it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it'll be intriguing to see whether he's able to push a little bit further, add to his game. I'm sure he'll add things like cutters in the shorter formats. But I think, his development in the red ball game is something to keep an eye on because will he be able to, for example, adopt reverse swing? I'm not sure if he did in the
He does reverse just a little bit. He does reverse the ball a little bit,
Yeah, he doesn't really shape the ball too much, though, does he, in terms of... so he's more of a seam bowler. Hits the deck hard, seam up. Rushes the batsman with pace. I know, obviously, he did quite well here in the UK. So I know he got, was it Joe Root and Ollie Pope? I remember one of the matches here in the UK. He got them and everyone was really raving about him. So he is someone who I think everyone does respect and they know that he's a talent, but he just needs to, as a fast bowler, you need to just piece it all together and find that consistency and rhythm. And that's something that I'm sure he will do. The injuries don't help. Stop starting all the time and tweaking here and there with the action to try and avoid getting injured. So hopefully he gets through a consistent, period where he's not getting injured, which is the main thing. You mentioned about him being similar to Waqar Yunis. I mean, what do you think in terms of the short to medium term future? Do you see him making those improvements and being a regular fixture in the Pakistan side anytime soon, or is it a case of he's going to
Uh,
have to work for a few years on his game and then come in and then potentially like cement his place?
I think it would be at least a couple of years, at least from my take. Knowing my luck, he's probably going to play against Australia, right? But there are certain aspects of his game that will need to be developed. So when he comes back into the Pakistan side properly, he'll be a bit older, more mature, more experienced. He'll have a few more games under his belt. He'll know exactly what he can be used for. Because we've seen too many players burst on the scene, get injured, or change of action, or X, whatever it is, right? And the end result is they've lost like 15 kilometers off their pace. The best example is Mohammad Zahid. I don't think you've seen Mohammad Zahid back in the day, but this happened to him. He was bowling absolute bolts, like mid 90s to late 90s on a consistent basis, right? And then he got injured, and then when he came back, he was bowling like 130, like he was bowling 80 miles an hour, because injuries definitely take a toll on your body, and hopefully this doesn't happen to Naseem Shah. And so far, and again, based on the PSL performances, I don't I don't expect him to be a regular fixture in the red ball, but I think what he's been doing in the T20 side of things is very impressive for a guy who everyone was talking about wasn't a T20 bowler. They're like,
Yeah,
oh, he's a red ball bowler. He's this, he's this. But
yeah,
his, you mentioned his List A record before we started. He hasn't played that many games,
yeah,
but he does have the capacity to play white ball cricket as well. He's not just a one trick pony.
yeah.
I think he'll just need to build that strength, which will allow him to easily play the red ball format, which is, in the end, his best format.
Which, to be honest with you, I think is not a bad starting point as well for him because I think initially when I saw him come onto the Red Bull scene, I just thought,
He played
you
one
know,
first class game before that.
yeah, and that's why I was a little bit. Well, one, I thought, okay, it's quite a big deal playing a Test match, and
Yeah.
and two, I thought, well, I've seen him. I thought well, I knew he was playing a little bit of domestic T20. I thought if you want to try him, see what he's like in the T20 format, um, especially now as all the injuries, etc. I just feel like if he's doing well enough to warrant being in the squad, then pick him. And obviously, we know the whole situation around Mohamed Hasnain. We are short a pacer, really. It's going to be in Australia. I mean, someone like him, he'd have a lot of success in Australia, you'd imagine. He should probably be in and around the squad at least. Doesn't necessarily need to be picked, but there needs to be some type of competition for places in that T20 squad for Pakistan. And I think he will be part of that. So it might be a case of, as you said, and rightfully so, I think that he might end up playing some T20, some ODIs before he then makes his Test debut again. Because I think one, they're not 100% sure about how his body will hold up, and two, at the moment, it will actually probably help him a little bit because he has to develop certain different facets of his game and control as well, which sounds weird to say, but because in Test match cricket, you feel like control is, the key being metronomic, and it is, but also being able to have control over bowling different variations on different lines and lengths and being able to have that accuracy. And it's something that he'll have to adapt because if he doesn't, as you said, and doesn't develop that correctly, then he will get hit for over 10 and over because he's got the pace where people will just manipulate the ball and kind of use that pace to hit into gaps. And that, unfortunately for him on those flatter pitches in Pakistan, can be the case. So some interesting times ahead. I'm sure we will see more of him. I agree. I don't think he'll be in the Test. I don't think he'll be in the Test 11. I'd be surprised. I think we may see him in a T20.
Mhm.
And it's a real shame because if Mohamed Hasnain was able to bowl, we could have had Shaheen, Naseem, Hasnain, and Haris Rolf, and that would have been four
Pretty
bowlers
good.
potentially bowling 90 plus miles an hour. Would have been rapid.
Yeah.
In Australia as well would have been pretty good. But yeah, not to be. Is anything you think? Is anything else you want to discuss on Naseem?
No, I think we've gone through everything. The big point is that he's extremely talented. And you talked about him being predominantly a seam bowler, but with the new ball, he does get that out shape away from the batsman. He has the ability, and we've seen him. He's got very strong wrists. So when he's trying to swing the ball away from the right hander, it's pretty effective. It's just consistency, keeping his strength consistent in the sense that he's exercising for the same muscles that are required for bowling supreme pace. Like you have fast bowlers and then you have very fast bowlers. To become one of those very fast bowlers, like example, Mitchell Stark, or like right now in the world, Mitchell Stark, Mark Wood, Jofra Archer, those are the guys that I think of, right? That are extreme pace nowadays. And we see Josh Hazelwood improve over the last few years. He's genuinely added like 9 miles an hour on a regular basis. And what he's done is he's gone to Mohammad Abbas and he said, "Can I borrow 9 miles of your pace and just use them?" And Mohammad Abbas is like, "Yeah, I'll just bowl 120 Ks."
Okay, Ramiz Raja. Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay with that. It's
Why
a
are you
fact.
abusing one of our
It's a
Pakistani
fact.
players for?
It's a fact. No,
Yeah, but...
his speed has declined exponentially in the course of like a year. In
I
the
know.
same time, Hazelwood has gained it. That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, but you didn't have to use that. You just wanted to have a slight dig in there.
No, I like Mohammad Abbas. I like him.
No, I love him. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, I think he just got old.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just what it
Yeah.
is. It's the age has caught up to him at the last second. Unfortunately, I mean which again we're going a bit off topic, but I'll quickly say, I mean, him in the UK, and I watched him live, obviously because we're both in the UK. When Pakistan came over, and he was causing havoc because your seam bowler gets the ball to shape a little bit as well, in and out, like not a huge amount of swing, but enough. And he's so metronomic in these conditions in the UK with cloud cover. Oh my gosh! I mean, it's an exaggeration, but he might have got 500 wickets if he was an English player. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, he is literally like that type of player that he would have got. He would have got a lot of wickets. The Sun is just.
Do you know what the Sun is like, Fazad?
Wow.
Let's stop talking about Mohammad Abbas. All right.
Yeah,
let's talk about Naseem Shah.
Exactly.
Let's end this here.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think that's a good chat on Naseem Shah. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. We are doing this monthly. So, of course, it's a new segment. The first episode, which is with Cameron Green, obviously not live, we're not interviewing him, we're talking about him, is on Usher's channel, Cricket For Us 2.0. So do check that out. Do like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Or if you do like this video as well, do like and subscribe. If you're watching on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, then just do all that good stuff, like, share, subscribe. They're all different. Follow, whatever it is you can do there to support us. And the next episode will be out in March, hopefully. So around this time in March, we're aiming to do kind of the third week of each month around about that time, release one episode. We haven't picked anyone yet. It'll be up to us to choose, and we'll have a discussion there. We decided not to pick Shaheen Afridi because he's the ICC Player of the Year for 2021, so probably doesn't quite count.
He's already a current star.
He's already a star. Yeah, he's not really a future star, is he? I mean, so yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for being on, as always, and yeah, looking forward to doing the next one on Usher's channel, Cricket For Us 2.0. Do check it out. Thank you guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you on the next video.